Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Working on the Dad Pod. As always, I'm Ethan, and this is Alex. And today we are going to get into working on activities with the kids and the activities that they do to possibly prepare for their future, or honestly, to just have fun. Alex, how you doing today?
Sure. I am doing well. We had a family vacation this past weekend. Um, Went to Legoland for the second
Fun.
time this calendar year, which was super fun. Obviously, as you know, based on the time we're recording, Monday was Yom Kippur, and because my kids, we're not Jewish, we don't celebrate Yom Kippur, but because my kids go to a Jewish temple for school, school was closed. It was
Mm.
actually a teacher workday for the entire school district, but I think that is
The
absolutely
impetus.
connected to Yom Kippur. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Quick correction. I don't think anybody really celebrates Yom Kippur. We tend to use the word
that's
observe.
that's fair. I mean, there's like an after party, right?
Yeah.
Like I've been a
Yeah.
part
Yeah.
of the after party, even
Sure.
though my observation skills have not been on point.
Right. And Alex
But
is
yeah,
referring to how when we were in college and I was very, very fat, I decided that the best way to break fast was to go to all you can eat pasta bowls at Olive Garden. So let's just say I got my money's worth, as did everybody who just wanted to do that, Jewish or not. So.
yeah, that was the thing for me, right?
Mhm.
As a Gentile, and my girlfriend, now wife, was even there for one of those experiences, as well as one or two of our non-observing roommates, as well as one of our
Mhm.
observing roommates.
Mhm.
And let's just say we all got our money's worth, whether we had breakfast and lunch or not. Yeah.
Indeed.
But anyway, what's going on with you, man?
So,
Besides,
a
obviously, I think my Monday was probably a little
little bit
less
better. Yeah.
testing than
Yeah,
yours.
mine was a little bit more observy, but I was apparently I learned that if you date Taylor Swift, you get like hundreds of thousands more podcast listeners. So I think one of us should do that.
Listen, I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I don't think my wife would even be mad. She'd just be
Oh,
impressed.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely not. I
It's a
mean, like,
whole,
yeah, yeah, no,
like
I think this is a win for everybody. Listen, if my wife
I
found
think
out,
I think if she got, yeah, I think there maybe be like a contractual stipulation, right? Of
indeed,
like, I need some proceeds, some
mm-hmm,
ticks at
sure.
least, right?
Indeed. No,
But
my wife
yeah,
would just be like, my wife would be so ecstatic. She'd be like, "Oh my god, my husband's dating Taylor Swift, and like she and I are friends now, and I'm part of it, or at least I want to be." Is how my wife would feel.
yeah. I mean, and listen, Taylor Swift is very much trying to be a groundbreaker, and so
Mhm.
I think things get going well, and you just throw out the word thruple, see what happens.
Yeah, let's go for it. And like
All right,
clearly,
we are.
she's trending in like the bigger, bulkier man now with Travis Kelsey than like in previous relationships. And like in a sense, I'm even bigger than him, in the gut. So I guess I'm next.
Honestly, I don't know if you measured it like that. Like he may still have you beat. Probably a lower body fat percentage, but he's a large man.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm.
but yeah, I mean, I think we show that clip from the fitness episode where you're talking about how much you could do at the combine, right? You
Yeah, yeah,
train
we
up
should
and you
definitely.
challenge
Yeah,
him. You challenge him to a competition, and
yeah.
obviously he's got dance moves. You've ripped your share of pants at weddings, breaking
Mhm.
it down.
And
So I think
there's nothing women love more than two guys having a competition for their heart and then being told about it. So I actually think I'm just going to challenge Travis Kelsey for dating rights, and we'll see how that goes.
yeah, yeah. I think we've solved it. We will we'll tag their podcast on social
Mm-hmm.
media
Yeah,
and
let's
see if
do
he's
it.
willing to throw down the The problem is, if it comes to like a brawl or a duel, like, and I'm your backup on this one, like, I got to tell you, like, Travis Kelce's kicking your butt. Jason Kelce is more than kicking my butt, right? Like, if we're, it's got to be a less than physical challenge. You want to do bench press with Travis Kelce, Godspeed, but I'm going to need like a math competition and hope for the best against Jason Kelce or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, we should probably get into wins and losses.
Sure.
Because this is not what I had in mind when I thought we were going to be talking about extracurriculars.
No, I was just thinking, like, how can we juice the audience a bit more? And it turns out that dating Taylor Swift's the easiest way to do that. So,
so I think, we definitely, if we need a soundbite, Taylor, if you're listening, which I'm sure you are, Ethan's a free agent. And I got to say, if I'm picking somewhere to spend a good chunk of time, I would pick Washington, D.C. over Kansas City.
There we go. Well said. Welcome to my life, Taylor. All right. Wins and losses, except for the future win of Taylor Swift in my life. But I'm going to start with an L. And it's actually the one I meant to.
I feel like you always do. You're like, I got that L queued up. I've had a week.
I do.
Let's do it.
Full of L's. This is actually an older L that I forgot to share the last time we recorded, but it really has stung with me. So my 1-year-old, we send her to school every day with a pacifier on a clip, just hanging out. And and she one morning before school, in the time I was changing her overnight diaper and putting on a new one, she peed all over the changing table. So like I kind of like had her up, put the diaper on, and I stupidly, instead of just getting her dressed in her crib, I like got her dressed in my arm. I don't know why. And while she was crunched up, I clipped on her pacifier and I accidentally got a little bit of her skin through her shirt. Like, so like I couldn't see her, but I realized that like the pacifier was connected to her and she was screaming and crying.
I would imagine.
Because she kept moving around, I couldn't get it off fast enough. And she had a little mark for about a week, and I felt terrible. And
you should.
I wasn't relieved until the mark fully went away. Like I felt the guilt and the pain, and that was just a big L.
So you weren't really pacified?
I wasn't, but that was well done.
Okay.
You know what? The story was worth the dad joke. So I'm glad.
There you go. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for.
What about you?
So as per usual, we're going to go in this weird order where you start off with an L. I'm going to start off with a win. So my win for this week is pretty cool. It's my daughter. So I'm going to plug a product, right? It's a free product that anybody can do. There's a sign up at my local library. I think a lot of libraries do it. If not, I'm sure you could find it on the internet. Have you ever heard of Dolly Parton's Imagination Library?
I have not.
Okay, so Dolly Parton, she has what is basically a book service where you sign up for free and you plug in your kid's name and their age, and they send them age-appropriate books once a month. So each one of my kids gets a book addressed to them. My son got a book earlier this week with a bunch of like vehicles, right? It's a book all about vehicles. So it's got trucks, it's got boats, it's got this, that, and the other. And he wanted to read it, flipping through it. They walk away. My daughter picks up the book. Homegirl starts trying to sound out the words. She's starting to try and figure out how to read, right? She's just like, t, but. boat, right? And she's starting to get that. And so we've been spending, we went to the library a couple days ago and got her a couple of early reader books. Well, I kind of screwed up and I got her level 1, and apparently there's like a pre-level 1. It's not called level 0 or something like that. And so the books were a little advanced for her as someone who's just learning to sound out words, but she is very interested and like asks us to practice with her, right?
Nice.
And so not yet being 5 years old, being just a couple months, not even into pre-K, it's pretty cool that she's trying to learn how to read.
That's
But
great.
and I frame it like that because I know that I've actually read a lot of things about like trying to get your kids to read too early can actually have negative consequences on them, but not when we're talking about like her initiating it, right? Like
Yeah, no, that's
we
awesome.
answer her questions. We've helped her when she's asked on this kind of thing, and she loves to have books read to her. She loves to flip through books. Both of my kids really love to flip through books, even if they can't read them. But yeah, she started trying to, sound out the words. So that was pretty cool. Because it was actually something for me where when I was a kid, I was actually able to read some small, kid books before I got into kindergarten. And so it was pretty cool to see her do that as well. But there's been no pressure on our end from that. But yeah, definitely a win to, see her
Yeah.
really excelling. Yeah.
Yeah, reading is definitely a win. Yeah, I hope my daughters get excited to learn to read when the time comes. But my toddler, she's been she has been flipping through books since like she was 6 months old, and for a
Yeah.
while it was her
Sure.
absolute favorite thing to do, until she discovered what a TV was. So she still does it,
Yeah.
but like most people, she's like, "This is cooler than than like
Yeah.
standard images." Um, so
My
yeah,
son
so
actually likes to flip through the books and have like the TV on with the sound off, and he's just like it's background visuals, and he's still engaged in the book, which I find fascinating.
yeah,
I don't know.
that's cool. So my win is so my daughter, the toddler, she
Sure.
is she's smaller, like on like the she's I would call her petite, and but she some of the boys in her preschool class can be pretty aggressive. And
Sure.
we talk a lot about personal space, and then there was like a series of time of like days in a row where she was the hit victim or the bite victim. So one thing we did, and it actually was copied by the school, is we found the boundary song. And I don't know if you've heard it, but it teaches kids
No.
about personal space and boundaries. It
Nice.
actually goes, please stop. I don't like that. I'm feeling uncomfortable. I need more space. It's not for me. Don't take it personally. That's just my boundary, a boundary. And so we will sing that as a family. And
Nice.
now, whenever she's being feels like her space is being invaded, she yells, "Please stop! I don't like that. This is my boundary," and calls the teacher every single time without fail. And
Okay.
I'm really happy. The win is that like is, you know, she is getting herself out of bad situations without resolving without using violence back
Sure.
at the
Right.
perpetrators. So
Right.
I just feel like that's like a nice like win for her growth as a human, not just as a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. For sure. That's pretty
and
awesome.
I just wanted to sing
Um,
on camera. So
yeah. Sure. I mean, we're gonna cut that with the other stuff. Send it to Taylor.
yeah, yeah,
We'll have our people, which is us, reach out to
mhm.
her people, and I'm sure it'll be well received. So
I think so too.
Yeah, so my loss, it's not really like a loss. It's not like we had like some perfect week, but I feel like a lot of our losses are kind of like the losses, meltdowns or things that we always have, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
repeating ourselves. But we were on Sunday, we went to Legoland, and then on Monday we went to Peppa Pig Land. But on Sunday evening, we weren't staying at the Legoland Resort this time. We
Mm-hmm.
were staying down the road, but we wanted to do dinner at the Legoland, like I think it's like Treasure Island Hotel or something like that. It's pirate themed. Um, it was a great dinner. The kids seemed to enjoy it, all that stuff. But is one of the features about Legoland that we absolutely love is there's just like a lot of like play spaces for kids with Legos. But in this restaurant, it's like they're sitting there at the table, but then there's a separate room that's filled with Legos, and they had like a TV playing the Lego movie. And it's just a space that kids can go when they're kind of done with the meal to play. And so
Mm-hmm.
that was pretty awesome. And both of our kids wanted to go in there and play. Well, the way the room was situated, we could look at the door and see kids walking in or out. And so that way we could keep an eye on, especially our son, who, may decide to like wander off. But he couldn't like exit without getting past us. We told our daughter, we're like, hey, watch your brother. Okay. You got to watch your brother while he's in here, just so we had a third set of eyes, but we didn't expect her to do much. Well, homeboy, he waddles on out and he comes back to our table after a couple minutes, and he's sitting on my wife's lap, and my wife's got her back turned to this door. He's just sitting there eating. He's happy. And we're sitting there talking, having a time, eating some more food. And like 5 minutes later, my daughter runs out and like looked like straight out of a horror movie. Like 5 minutes later, runs out. She's like crouched in the ready position, and her head is just on a swivel with like saucers for eyes, just like sheer panic. Like, oh no, I lost him. I lost him. I'm like, hey, he's here. You can't see him because mom's blocking him, but he's here. And so that was my L, to like learn that I can't count on my daughter for
Mm-hmm.
watching my son, because I'm like, five
Sure.
minutes he could have been gone, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah, that's a.
I found it very funny to watch her, and not to mention she's got face paint on, that she got this like princess cat mask thing at the face paint stand in Legoland, but she's like smeared half of it, and they give
Mm,
all the kids a pirate bandana to wear. So she's just got like pink paint. She's in a Batgirl dress and a bandana on. Like, she looks like a hot mess, just running out in a sheer panic. And I thought it was both adorable that she cared and hilarious that she was way too late. So
yeah, yeah,
yeah, that was my L. She's
yeah.
she's not ready for babysitting duty yet.
Yeah, my toddler is oddly good at babysitting to the point where she'll be like, "Daddy, she's trying to share food with me," and it's like, "Yeah," and she's like, "But she's supposed to be eating it. She's not doing what you told her to do. I need to help my little sister," and I'm like, "Oh man, like you need to chill." When I said to watch her,
Yeah,
I didn't want to play by play. All right.
yeah, yeah. I get a
Yeah.
lot of that, and it's eased up over time. I will say, as
Mm.
my son has gotten more capable of things, where it's just like,
Mhm.
Dad, he has this, and I'm just like, I don't care. Like,
Right.
so I appreciate you telling me, but like, this is not like, Dad, he pulled out a sock out of the drawer. Okay, well, that's kind of the idea. In the mornings when we tell him to go get socks, like, we want him to be able to reach those. Like,
Yeah.
I'll put the roll of socks back. Not a
Yeah.
big deal.
Future radio hosts, our daughters.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Need to
Anyway,
play by play. Yeah. All right.
yeah,
Shall we get into the fun stuff?
yeah, the fun extracurriculars and activities.
Yeah. So let's start with our own childhood, shall we?
Sure,
What were
sure.
your fun extracurriculars, man?
So I definitely did like quite a few different things, but I was rarely the type of person who did. a lot, right? Like I
Mhm.
was never the type of person that like was just bouncing from one extracurricular to the other. I felt like I was always the type of kid that like had one thing that I like really focused on at a given time until I burned out of it. And maybe that was my ADHD or whatever, but I have some things that have stuck with me, right? And so when I was a kid, I played like T-ball and little league baseball and all that kind of stuff. And I enjoyed that. At certain points, I think when baseball season wasn't going, I never did like travel ball. Maybe I did like a fall ball league once or twice, and maybe I do some summer camps. But I was never on a trajectory of like going into travel ball or American Legion or all those kinds of things. I got to a certain point, when I realized like baseball was not going to be my thing. Um,
Yeah, it's.
but I
I wish.
did like cup.
I was just gonna say,
Go ahead.
I wish my parents were just honest with me and was like, baseball is not going to be your thing. I wasted way too many years playing baseball, believing I could get better, and I wish they had just told me, "Nope, you're not that good," and I would have saved us all a lot of time.
Yeah, for me, it wasn't just that I wasn't good, right?
Mm.
Because like I probably quit before, like the coaches would have told me, like the tryouts would have mandated that everything get pared down and I wasn't like good enough.
Mm-hmm.
But um I just wasn't enjoying it because I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't successful, right? Like I was pretty decent at catcher when I played defensively, but like I couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. And like when kid pitch happened, like I think in like my first or second at bat of like kid pitch, I got drilled by a kid who was just like way taller than me and maybe like a year or two older. And I got drilled by like a 65-mile-an-hour fastball or something. And I think it just like, I stood just back in the box. I stood a little outside where I'm just reaching
Uh-huh.
for things. Didn't work out for me. I also did Cub Scouts. Never got full into the Boy Scouts. You go through the Cub Scouts and then you graduate into the Boy Scouts, sort of like I guess an elementary high school thing. But I fizzled out of that too. Just because again, I wasn't enjoying it. I did like band, but that wasn't so much an extracurriculars. That was like a class in middle school. Like I played band, and then I did some extracurricular like jazz band, which was like an after school practice,
Mm.
which was sort of like the select thing. But I didn't like doing that after middle school, and then I played tennis in middle school and in high school. Stuck with that a while, and I really liked that. I played golf more recreationally than anything, with my dad, with friends. But then and I also did like the student newspaper, which I think is probably the thing that like stuck with me the longest because that ended up dictating what my major was in college. And so like I did the school paper and those kind of things, but it wasn't like I felt like I was ever, and we'll get into this a little bit because I'm very like fearful of this idea of having kids that are on like a school soccer team and then doing like travel ball or a club team and then doing like something else and just being like bam 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 like running kids, and especially with multiple kids because I was an only child, and so like my extracurriculars were just the one thing for the one kid, right? And I'm very like fearful of my kids wanting to do a bunch of things and me, you know, having to either put the kibosh or deal with it. But what about you? What was sort of your extracurricular lifestyle when you were a kid?
So we had a lot of similar ones. As I mentioned, there was baseball. I was actually also in jazz band. I played the saxophone. I
Same.
Oh, nice. I ended up when I got to jazz band, I was a tenor, but I grew up as an alto. What about you?
Okay. I was an alto sax. I
Mm.
started in sixth grade at the clarinet. You had to, and then you
Oh,
had to try out to be on the saxophone, right? Like you could only
that is
play like
like
four instruments as a
that
sixth
is like
grader.
the
You could play
strange.
flute.
Yeah. That, I was just saying, like
I
there's this whole like culture of like in order to play saxophone, you need to play clarinet, but it's like that is so like it's honestly so weird. because I get that the
No.
fingering's the same, like in terms of just like how to get the notes, but like if there is no reason, as somebody who's not an expert in this, there is no reason why you can't just learn how to play saxophone. That's what I did. So
Well, and I think the rationale from the teachers was like they wanted the sixth graders to have one of four instruments so that teaching was easier, right? You weren't having to teach somebody how to do stuff on saxophone and on clarinet and on flute and on piccolo. It was like, okay, you had flute, clarinet, trumpet, and trombone. Those are your
mm,
four things. And then you could try out to add something like a piccolo or percussion, drums or saxophone.
interesting.
And I think some people did like tuba or French horn or whatever. But I think it was
Mm,
just like wanting you to like master the basics and keep the options of what the teachers had to teach at that sixth grade level a lot simpler than like finding music for all the different instrument groups and teaching that when everybody's just sort of like trying to figure out what the heck a scale is. But that was
gotcha.
sort of the theory. And I'm sure people that are more expert than us would absolutely tell us why they did it. Maybe it's my
Mm,
reason. Maybe it's something completely different.
interesting. Um, I also for a while, or I took some piano lessons, guitar lessons, just trying to find what the right fit was. Sports wise, when I got to high school, I really focused on football. I played tight end. Take that, Travis. And I real theme of the episode. But in the most
Never made
Los
second
Angeles.
team all league in your league.
Oh yeah, I did. I was second team all league. Take that.
Yeah, but he was never
Um,
second team all league in your league because he didn't grow up in California.
it's true. Yeah, his state was smaller. It was probably easier to play football and succeed. Anyway,
Yeah.
so in the most LA fashion, though, I did have a little bit of a child actor, couple of years where, I was walking around with a giant red set of curls, and basically it was just like a little boy that looked like Shirley Temple. So they wanted to put me in stuff, and I actually did do a Hanes underwear commercial. Um, this was before Michael Jordan, so after I retired, the best they could do was Michael Jordan. So like in the rankings, it's Ethan Alpern, Michael Jordan, and the rest. Take that, Michael. Wow,
Yeah.
I'm really going after all the all stars today. But
Yeah. I mean, like Travis Kelsey's never done a Hanes commercial
he's never done a
that I
Hanes
know of.
commercial. He's just going
Yeah.
out there doing like COVID-19 get your vaccination commercials. Like, who does that help? I sold underwear, baby. All right. Anyway,
Exactly.
yeah. Yeah, so so music, acting, sports, the whole genre that one would do. But I really will say that my parents uh, didn't. I don't want to say like so they forced us to try stuff. They wanted us to
Yeah.
have something, but they kind of let us continue with our passions. And like I mentioned earlier, I wish they had told me I was bad at baseball, so I could have like focused on better things. But a funny story is I only got into baseball because I remember being like 4, and my dad took me to soccer tryouts because they signed me up for soccer. And
Sure.
I remember vaguely just like running, and then after like 1 minute went back to my dad, and I was like, no, this is too much running and I don't like
Yeah.
this. So my dad was like,
Yeah.
baseball it is. So that's how I got into
Yeah.
baseball. Yeah.
I had that exact same experience. I forgot one season of basketball. There was just like a
uh
lot of up and down, and I'm like, I'm not the biggest guy. I can't just plant in the post here. Like I got to move around,
yeah.
and I was kind of a scrawny little kid, and so like I wasn't a distance shooter either. And I'm like,
Mhm.
it's just a lot of running around and hoping for the best.
Right,
Not for me.
right. So, with that in mind, we want our my wife and I, we obviously like want to try stuff with our daughters, and we talk to the other parents around preschool, try to sign kids up for the same stuff so that they're doing stuff with friends just to see if they like it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
so right now, my daughter has been doing. Sorry, my toddler daughter, the one who's
Sure.
turning 4 in 2 months. She has been doing um, gymnastics ever since almost for 2 years now. Um,
Nice.
and, and when I say gymnastics, I mean like they do like a warm up, and there's like somersaults, like jumping on trampolines. They're not really getting into anything, but I will say my daughter is very, very good. And no matter what class she's in, she literally runs circles around her classmates, partially because one, she's realized that some of the activities are super boring. And if she can run past the, crawling up um, a couple steps just to come back down the steps before she gets back on the tumble track, which is just a super long trampoline. She realized she could just run by it and do more of that, which honestly, as somebody who's paying for these sessions, I would rather her do the fun stuff in those as much of the fun stuff as she can in the
Sure.
45 minutes. But actually, what I attribute her skills at gymnastics with is that when the pandemic started, she was 4 months old. Um, and so, like, we were with her obviously 24/7 from just like learning how to move. And once we got to the point where she was crawling, we were like, oh man, we really need to baby proof this house. And whoever built our home uh, never heard of baby gates because we tried multiple brands and like we could not baby gate our stairs. So we were
Yeah.
just like, well, we're home. So as long as one of us is like with her on the stairs every time, great. So pretty much like the moment
Yeah.
she could crawl, she started doing flights of stairs, and we live in a 3-story townhouse. So she's done a lot of stairs. My little
Yeah.
girl has got some upper body strength where she's like swinging on the rope until the teacher rips her off. She is doing
There you go.
um, she does at the playground. She does this like I never know the name of this thing. It's called like a spin top or whatever, where she just like holds on and like
Yeah.
spins around and around. She likes the zip line stuff. The only thing she doesn't really like, I think, and it's more just like a fear of like the movement, is like the monkey bars. But for the most part, like
Mm.
because she has like all this like upper body strength from like literally since she could crawl, it does pretty well for her in gymnastics. Um,
Nice.
so that was a big gymnastics rant, but she also does. Uh, she she just started ballet. She's 3 weeks into that,
Nice.
so she's really liking that. And she also does golf, which is something I'm really happy that we do together. Um, she saw me, or we were watching golf on TV, and she said she wanted to play. So I said, "Do you want to play with Daddy?" And she said, "Yeah." And so I got her some lessons, and she's had 2 official lessons, and we've gone to the driving range a handful of times. And I'm doing my best not to mess up her game, but she really loves it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's looking forward to that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty cool. And it sounds like she's already got a full plate. Like, my daughter does, she's been doing dance. This is her second year doing dance.
Mm-hmm.
The first year, and it was her sort of initiating it, she had mentioned that she wanted to be a ballerina.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're like, okay, easy enough. We'll sign you up for ballet. No problem. We signed her up for ballet, and it was like an intro, basic class. And it was like ballet and tap,
Mm-hmm.
like combo thing. And we were like, this will be great. That way, if she decides she likes the tap portion better or the ballet portion better, we can do that. Well, year 2 comes and she's like, I don't want to do ballet. I don't want to do tap. I want to do acro, which is sort of like gymnastics dance, like
Mm-hmm.
cartwheels, somersaults, those kind of things, still at the dance studio. But she's basically decided that like her life goal is a cartwheel. And she thinks she's really close, but she's really close to the ground. Like her
Sure.
feet get maybe 6 inches off the ground. She's like, I did a cartwheel. And I'm like, did you though?
Yeah.
Did you do a cartwheel? So yeah, but it got to the point where like apparently there was an incident at school, not incident, but like another girl was showing off a cartwheel and was probably just as bad. And my daughter started trying to like tell her why it was wrong. And I'm like, it's kind of like, what you were talking about like at the driving range. It's like, are you the best person to be giving this advice? Like,
Right.
I
Right.
don't think so. She's also done gymnastics camps, right? So when I guess it was in 2021, maybe she's not quite 3, right? So she was 2.5. It was the summer that she was 2.5, and we had her in some gymnastics camps. And part of the reason for having her in those gymnastics camps was it was the only camp she was allowed. She was like able to go to because their requirement was not a lower age range. Like a lot of places are like, you need to be 3 or 4. This was, you just need to be potty trained. And as we mentioned in the potty training episode, she had been potty trained for like over a year at that point. And so, we sent her to gymnastics camp and she liked it a little bit, but it was a little tough because she was not doing a good job of napping. And this was well before she graduated out of naps. And so like we were having to pick her up early, and then my mom started picking her up early, and it just became like a little bit more work than wanted to be. But we sent her back to gymnastics camp again this past summer once or twice because the same gymnastics place is the only place that seems to do camps the like week after school ends and the week before school starts. Like everybody else is like, no, school's closed, and so we're not doing any camps. And it's just like, I don't want to take a whole week off both of those times for childcare. So we sent her there, and she enjoyed it, but it was very much like an all sports camp. Like she played some soccer there, did some playground stuff, so it wasn't all just like doing gymnastics. She seems to like it, but whenever we mention it, we always sort of presented of like, you could do gymnastics or dance. Mostly because we don't want to take her to two things. We want to make sure that she's actually giving something a try. And like, we don't want her to, we just want her to be honest. She's young enough that like, if we entered her in gymnastics next year, she'd still be fine. Like, I don't think she's going to be a competitive gymnast. Like she's already way too tall. But she, so our strategy has sort of been like, pick the thing you want to do. And then if you don't want to do that thing anymore, then we'll find something new. But going forward, yeah, I think we might have some different strategies.
Yeah, I mean, so gymnastics has consistently been 10 a.m. on Sunday mornings. That is
Right.
she's been in the no matter which class she has been in, that has been the time because of just like the age range there. Ballet, is actually 9 a.m. on Saturday, but as I've mentioned before, I am alone on Saturdays, and I start the Saturday off with taking the girls to the farmer's market. The dance studio is 50 yards away from the farmer's market where she does ballet. So really, I'm just kind of getting our day started slightly earlier, and I just can't be lazy about it. So, we signed her up because, where we live, there's not a lot of options. And if you're not signing up for stuff the like day registration opens, you've missed it. So sometimes we're like, we have like FOMO for our kid, where we are worried that if we don't sign up for something, she just doesn't get to do it. And if it weren't for the fact that this last Saturday, when I was out of town I was in Philly for the Miami Temple game, my wife texted me when we were at or like when I was on the train up, and she was like, "Hey, should I ask about next session for dance?" And I'm glad she did because there was one spot left, and we knew one of her kids were in the class, so like we basically just like had to buy that spot, or else like we were just it was just gonna be, oh man, like so now what do we do?
Yeah.
Saturday morning.
Wow.
So it's frustrating because you really do have to act fast, and this, what did I say? She's had 3 sessions of ballet. I think it's an 8-week session. So if at any point in the next 5 weeks she tells us we don't like it, she doesn't like it, like I guess she's got to do it. Like or like hopefully there's people on a wait list.
Yeah, I would hope
And
that there's like a wait list when
yeah,
demand's that high. My daughter,
yeah.
we actually had sort of the opposite scenario with acro this year. We didn't have the problem with the intro to ballet because that's a pretty popular class because it's a very baseline intro thing. But it's like she has like beginner acro, and for the first probably 3 weeks of class, she was getting one-on-one lessons because wasn't anybody else in the class. And so we actually had the fear that she wasn't going to be able to continue doing it because they would cancel the class, right? Because it was just sort of like, okay, she's the only kid here. This is like the studio that we go to. It's a pretty popular studio, but the way that they run things is that they have their older, like high school age dancers teach the younger kids in those
Mm,
classes. And then those older dancers don't get a wage, they get a discount off of their classes, of which they're probably taking multiple. And I'm like, so the money probably really works out in the studio's favor on this thing.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But yeah, so we were worried about that. A couple more girls showed up, and so we don't have any concerns that they're going to cancel the class as of yet. But yeah, we have not been in that sort of like competitive spot for any of the things. I mean, sometimes there's some camps that might be that way, but again, as we sort of mentioned, even back in our first childcare episode, there's for kids, our kids' ages around here at least, there's not a ton of camp options. There's a few, but next summer is where I'm really hoping to do something that like really figures out what her interests are. Because next summer, as I've mentioned several times, when I talk about taking the kids to the gym I go to, we are members of the Y, right? And so it's obviously so much more than just a gym. Being the YMCA, they have a ton of sports leagues, but they also have summer camps for all of these sports, right? And so what I'm hoping to do with her next summer is go through the list of sports camps at the Y, which are probably going to be in pretty high demand, but say, okay, let's pick out some different things you want to do and then have her do like a week of soccer and a week of volleyball and a week of basketball and a week of whatever, right? And get her to dabble in those things.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, the city of Stuart, Florida, they have these things for kids like 4 to 6 years old where they'll do like a 6 week like intro league for like
Hmm.
t-ball or soccer or whatever, and they'll do that so it's only like a 6 week commitment and not like a whole sort of semester long league for that kind of stuff. And so if there's something that she really likes, maybe sign her up for 6 weeks, she's on a team doing all that kind of stuff, and then graduate from there if she likes it. But I think that's sort of one of our things is like, I don't want to ever feel like we're dragging her through these extracurriculars, but
Mm-hmm.
kind of like you were talking about with dance and how my parents have felt about it. I think when I was in 7th grade, I wanted to quit band. And my parents were like, no, you're going to keep going because we got to pay for this saxophone. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And, like there's a little bit of like, I'm paying for this, so you got to do it. And I don't necessarily
Yeah.
blame my parents for it, but I really want to avoid a situation where I'm like, okay, you hate it. You're on week 3 of 30 kind of thing,
Right.
because that
Yeah.
does not feel like an ideal situation. So it's very much like trying to check in with her every time. Like, how are
Mm-hmm.
you liking it? Are you enjoying it? And sometimes I feel like she's just giving me the, yeah, 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 yeah. And I'm like, no, but like, really, like, are you enjoying this? Because like once your recital happens around Thanksgiving, like you don't have to keep doing this, but I want to know because they're going to make us sign up before the recital, to
Mm-hmm.
have you do it in the spring.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, she's been doing like I mentioned, we were approaching like almost a full 2 years of gymnastics, but we have like asked her, like, do you still want to do it or do you want to do something else? And she just says, I want to keep doing it.
Sure.
We might make a change though, because, so in January, excuse me, in January, the gymnastics place switched ownership, and the quality has gotten like a lot worse. And where we live, just outside of DC, is actually where Olympian Dominique Dawes is from, and she opened up her own studio. Now the difference there, it's actually also similar priced. Difference is it's like it's a 6-minute drive to our current place. It's a 20-minute drive to her place. So you extrapolate that to 40 minutes round trip plus the course versus 12 minutes round trip plus the course. And, like we're at the age where she's still just like messing around. We're not, right. I joked when with her teacher like a year ago when she like literally at 2.5 years old did like a flip over the bar and like landed on her feet, like, and all the other, and this was when we were in like parent accompaniment, and all the dads like looked at me and they're like, that was so cool. And I was like, yeah, she's good. And then I turned to her teacher and I was like, so we're looking at like the 2032s, right? Like, do you think she's got a shot? And she just laughed at me. So like realistically, it's like, she's just doing it for fun. But man, like I'd hate to, it's, now this is where we as parents were like, okay, we know there's a better option, but this one's so much more convenient. And that's
right.
That's the tough thing. But also like, I don't know, like maybe it's a lot harder if it's Dominique Dawes' place. Maybe Dominique Dawes is a little like, it's a little more structured, which could be a good thing. But, I think she's enjoying just running around. Hopefully, the ownership, kind of realizes that it was better the way before and they, bring back some of the old teachers, but we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, going forward though for us, like obviously I've talked about, what we're planning on doing when my daughter's a rising kindergartner and, probably take similar tact with my son of like getting him interested in some of these things, seeing what he likes to do. I might take, one or both of them eventually to the driving range. My daughter has expressed interest in going, but like I'm never sure how much it's just like I want to be around daddy and grandpa and pop, because my dad and my father-in-law both play golf as well. And it's like, I don't know if it's that. And I'm like, how much do you actually want to do this kind of thing? And then like getting her lessons and all that stuff. But, in the future, as she's growing into this stuff, it's sort of that balance, right? Where it's like, I understand that like a lot of these kids who are doing, like a team sport, maybe they're doing it for their school and they're also doing a travel ball or an AAU or a club thing as well. And they're just, maybe they want a private coach because they're self-motivated and they want to get better. And so they've got all these sessions. It's like drawing that line, as you've talked about, of like you played baseball for quote unquote too long, where it's just like, does it matter? And this is sort of the question of like, does it matter in the very, very real probability that neither of our kids are going to ever get a college scholarship for their athletic accomplishments? Maybe they will. And if there seems real promise and you can ask real sources and they give you real feedback, that's a completely different story as long as your kid likes it. But like in the very real probability that doesn't happen,
mathematically,
like
statistically,
how much do you draw? Right. It's like, where do you draw the line of like, hey, I get that you want to be better at this, but like, is it worth it?
Sure.
Like, is it worth it to my wallet, but also is it worth it to like your time? Is this what you want to be like investing your time in? too. Like
Yeah.
I don't have an answer to that because I haven't obviously crossed that bridge or anywhere close to it.
Yeah. I think, I was very, my brother and I were very fortunate. Our parents, are, were in a great spot financially. So there was never really a financial component to getting us to move on from something. So I hope that my wife and I will be in a place where that's not something we will have to make our daughters choose, or like we'll have to make our daughters stop stuff because
Right.
we can't afford it. Really hoping
Yeah.
that that's not where we end up. Um, but I do hope that I will be comfortable enough in my relationship to be honest with them in the sense of like, you're not very good at this, but you are good at this. Maybe you should focus a little more effort on getting better at the thing you're already good at so that you can advance even further. And, but I
Yeah.
would never
And I think
force
it's the
them
difference
to give up
between
something
like,
they love to do.
right. And I think it's like the difference between like interest, what they're passionate about and what they're good at. And those things may not always be the same.
Right.
I was on social media and I saw a TikTok where a dad, and this is why I keep going back to sort of this example of too much stuff, but this sort of sparked this topic, was a dad basically being like, I was really proud of my son because he didn't make his school soccer team and he got cut from his club team. And he was really sad about it. And then he decided that he wanted to get better. So he asked us to get him a private soccer coach so that he could get better. So he got a private soccer coach. And then he made his school team. And then he made a different club team. And so now he's got practices and games for his school and practices and games for his club and practices and workouts with his private coach. Why couldn't this kid just accept failure? Why did he have to go and try so hard to get good when now I have to run him to 3 practices and pay for all this stuff? And I'm like, that's like how I feel, where I'm like, I want my kids to be driven, but at the same time, like,
Sure.
if you're a freshman in high school and you need a private coach just to make your high school team, it's like, look in the mirror and go, maybe take up something else. I don't know.
Yeah. Like, I even if I wanted to, I'm not financially in a place where I can pull like where you hear about, like, for example, obviously I have daughters, so college football is probably not an option. But you hear
Sure.
about these families that legit go bankrupt on like private um, quarterback quarterback coaching because
Sure.
they're like, we're paying for it now, and then they'll go to school for free, and they'll get an NIL deal, and they'll pay us back, or they'll make it to the NFL, and they'll pay us back. And you know what? It's working out great for Caleb Williams' parents. Don't get me wrong, but that's quite rare,
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's quite rare, but it's also like, I think the frustrating. I don't know who it's frustrating for. It's not frustrating for me. I don't know that I'm going to have a potential college quarterback, but like, I think the frustrating part is because of the way that like youth sports have grown over the years. It's just like you have to be a part of those things, whether it's in basketball, having to be part of an AAU league and a travel ball team. If you're, a football player, especially a quarterback, having to have a private coach. If, with these different sports, it's like you have to be involved on multiple levels to get appropriately scouted and get appropriate offers and like hone your skills and just be in front of the right eyeballs, right?
mhm.
To get the right people looking at you, kind of thing. And so that's part of it too, where I'm just like, it's frustrating that it can't just be like, oh, if I felt like when we were going through high school, it was like I had plenty of my peers that I went to high school with, not like a whole bunch, but plenty of my peers that just like played high school sports and got Division 1 scholarship offers for their sports, right? And it was just like they didn't necessarily go above and beyond, and some of them were smaller schools, and some of them were like, ACC, Big Ten, SEC caliber schools. on a couple of instances. Like I remember one of the basketball players going to Virginia Tech, a football player going to Maryland, that kind of thing. But it feels like that sort of game has changed, where it's like you almost have to like decide at like 12 or 13 years old what your kid's athletic path is going to be, and then dive down, and forgetting even the money conversation. Because like let's say you have the means to put them on a club team, but it's also the time commitment, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Forget the money. Let's just say money's no object on this. You can absolutely afford it. It's the time commitment of driving them all around. And I think for me, it's sort of that like hedging bet of like, is this going to pay off? Of all my Saturdays, like let's say my daughter, right? I used to work in college athletics. I used to work with a softball team. And it's like softball is another one of those sports where it's like, yeah, you play for your high school, but like you get noticed on the travel ball circuit. It's like, do I want to be the kind of dad, let's say my daughter gets into softball, that I'm traveling across state lines?
Yeah.
Takes a few hours to get to a state line from where I live. Like crossing state lines to go to softball tournaments, to have my daughter get 25% off of her college tuition at a smaller school. I'm like, kid, you're starting to sound out words before your 5th birthday. Let's shoot for the academic scholarship, because you just got to go to class and do well on your tests.
True. You don't have to do a travel test team.
You still have to go to the classes, whether you have an academic scholarship or an athletic scholarship. So you might as well just make the money doing the one thing. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. Like unless one of my daughters is like very, very good, where like even I can tell that it's not just like I say when I say that my daughter is very good at gymnastics, this is like kids gymnastics. Like she's still
for a 3-year-old compared to the other 3-year-olds in your immediate neighborhood that happen to show up at that same time. She seems to excel.
Yes, that is, and I'm fully aware.
Right.
But I would much rather, and again, I wasn't good enough in any of my sports, aside from, some very small Division III interest in football, because like I was talented, but I was small. Or I am small. I haven't grown vertically since 5th grade, only horizontally. Sure. But I would much rather my kids be like similar to me, a 3-sport high school athlete, because yes, they're playing sports year round, but it's a different sport each time, and it's at the school, and the school is travel, and I would much rather. I don't want to be practice. Yeah, and I don't want to, like you. I don't want to spend my biggest fear, and we joked about it. You remember how for about a year straight, the only thing my daughter wanted to watch on TV was a replay of the Tokyo Olympic women's diving. So we probably watched that every day for a year. And my fear and my wife's fear is that she's like, I want to be a competitive swimmer and diver, because those meets, not only are they far away, they're all at 5 a.m. And like, whose problem that's going to be? Mine. And I don't want that at all. So, I hope she picks sports that schools sponsor. And by schools, I mean like Maryland public schools sponsor and provide travel to. But that said, if she's so good at if one of them is so good at something that even us can tell, and, it's statistically being backed up, and it is something they love, then of course, like we'll do our best to make that work for them.
Right.
But that's not something we're ever gonna force.
Yeah, and I'm with you, because I think it is one of those things where, again, statistical probability. There is no one in my immediate family or my wife's immediate family that got any super serious like college interest on any level for sports, at least that I know of. I did, like you, got some Division III interest letters from my grandmother's alma mater, and
Legacy.
they were yeah, but it was Division 3, and they had been an all girls school up until about the year we graduated high school. And so they were just adding men to the student body, and we're like, we're going to have a men's tennis team. Would you have any interest in joining? And I was like, well, that's really cool, but like, no. Like, one, I'm not that good at tennis. Two, in case anybody doesn't know, Division 3 is no scholarships. So
Yep.
there's no like, it's just you're going for the opportunity to continue to play. And we went to the University of Miami. I'm like, there are tennis courts there that we can go play on. And I can go play tennis with just about anybody that can pick up a racket. You don't have to be that good. And I played for like sorority philanthropy events and stuff like that too. So it's just like,
yeah,
I don't need the rigors of a coach telling me to go to practice while I'm paying, because it's a small little private school, while I'm paying private school tuition for the school I didn't want to go to. You know? So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, same here. Although I will say I did enjoy prospective athlete like visit weekend. And the only reason I even got some interest in the school that I did, which was Trinity University in San Antonio, was actually two kids from my high school football team who were a year older than me were playing there already. So
Nice.
there was also some familiarity. It was cool to see them. This is 18-year-old Ethan, and I learned when I got to campus that there was a Chipotle on both ends of the campus. So I was like, this is the place for me.
This is the best place on earth.
I get to play football. I already have friends. I can walk from one Chipotle to the other. This is great.
Yeah, there you go. Sounds like you got that all figured out. But I think we're probably on the same page here with like what we'll do in the future with our kids. But to put a bow on the discussion, I'd like to tell everybody listening that please don't keep the receipts of this conversation, because I'm fully prepared for one of us to be a travel ball dad when our kids are in high school, for a kid that's not going to get a scholarship offer, eating our words and going, but she loves it.
She loves it. Yeah.
And we just want to see her happy and all that kind of stuff. So please don't hold us to it.
Yeah.
That's what I'd say.
But again, ultimately my goal is to be able to have an honest conversation with my daughters on that balances their love of the game or instrument or whatever, and being able to give them an honest evaluation of how they compare to others, and to explain how focusing too much time, attention on one thing could put something that they're actually better at a disadvantage. And ultimately, if any of those things get in the way of schoolwork, then they just can't do it. So,
yeah, of course.
Yeah,
I think that goes without saying. But anyway, should we work on the dad bod a little bit?
Yeah. So I have weighed myself prior to recording.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Look at you go.
So I am just fluctuating back and forth, kind of on the same numbers. Our last episode, I was 190.2. I'm 189.4. That's 8 days difference. Before our previous episode, I was 189.4. And then the episode before that, I was 191. So I'm kind of just going up and down in that exact range.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess at this point, the question becomes for you, before I get into me, is there anything you're going to try and change or improve on?
I need to stick to my workout routine that work has been getting in the way of, even though so all of the extra responsibility that comes with this promotion is starting to hit me. And time time is not at a premium as it was last month. I'm also I'm slipping on the intuitive eating and the slowing down.
Sure,
I
sure.
have like some days where I'm doing great on my calorie counting, and then there's another day that I've like doubled it, just because I'm not eating more. It's just like what I'm eating. Um,
Right, right. I
I
got
will
you.
say is what has really just been keeping me, regular is, the fact that my commute to taking the girls to preschool is a walk. And, I do
Yeah,
extend the walk by like taking the long way home. So,
there you go.
I am getting movement, and that's like obviously two ways. And then when I do go to work, even though I take the metro, there's still a lot of steps to make that
Sure.
happen. So,
Yeah.
um, but once I have to start going back into the office 2 days a week, I may join the gym at work just because it is so cheap for employees, and then it just gets
Sure.
deducted right out of your paycheck, and you don't even
Yeah.
know you're yeah. So, but
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
what
that's
about
a,
you?
that's not a bad idea. Obviously, it's one of those things where, as we've talked on and as the science dictates, movement's good. If you're doubling your calorie count,
Mhm.
it's not going to erase that or come close
Right.
to it. But there is also science showing that working out regularly can help boost satiety signals, right? So that might be one of the bigger benefits of like regular exercise is just like it helps with your hunger cues.
Hmm.
So that, I think that'd be good. For me, it's keep on keeping on. Last week I was at 183. This week I am at 182.4. So, just the steady march of about a half pound a week. I'll take it. Uh, you know, and especially with a vacation weekend, right? Because like we went to Legoland um on Sunday morning, I was able to eat my, protein heavy breakfast casserole before we left. Because we didn't leave the house until like 7:15, 7:30, because the park doesn't open until 10, so we didn't have to like jump out the door first thing in the morning. So I was able to eat my regular breakfast, and then for lunch, we got some stuff at the park, but trying to like mix it up where it's like, yeah, I got like a fried chicken sandwich and some fries, but I also got like a salad with grilled chicken on it. My wife and I sort of split both of those, um, which helped boost sort of the nutritional profile of what I was eating, and just made an effort to it's pretty easy to get your steps in at a theme park,
Sure,
but
sure.
making sure that I was maximizing that step count, right, and probably added 3 to 5 thousand steps by just like not taking every opportunity that I could to sit down and walking around and staying moving and all that kind of stuff. So one of those days that on the old Apple Watch where I didn't work out, I didn't have a workout, but I closed all my rings, right? I got 30 minutes of activity and 750 calories is what I have my activity meter on and all that stuff. Um, and then dinner, I was actually kind of surprised that I lost a whole half a pound this week because dinner, the way dinner went at the pirate themed restaurant, it's like served family style, but they gave us this big skillet, and this skillet had like roasted chicken and like steak and pork loin and shrimp and like blackened flounder and like mashed potatoes and green beans and all this stuff, and then like brought a dessert skillet that was like a skillet filled with like a chocolate chip cookie and ice cream on top, and like I didn't really hold back.
Nice.
I tried to take it slow, but I definitely didn't eat like a small portion. I didn't track my
Right.
calories because I just sort of, it's one of those things where like I don't see a ton of value in those instances when I know I'm going over and calculating that I went over. Where it's just like, I'll get them to, I will make the best decisions I can, try to be intuitive and try to quote unquote limit the damage, right? And not
Mhm.
like overeat on the chocolate chip cookie skillet, get a few tastes, like it, not overeat on the things I don't want to eat, but just recognizing like I'm not going to hit my calorie limit. and
Mm-hmm.
putting it in there is not going to change whether I hit my calorie limit. I'm probably not going to be accurate with it. And it's not going to and I'm not going to change what I do tomorrow because of what I did today. Right. So I don't track in those types of situations. So I was actually very pleasantly surprised when I stepped on the scale this morning that I had, continued to lose weight because it was going on a vacation, and then on the way back from vacation, it's like we stopped at a Wendy's for lunch, right? And I got a ghost pepper chicken sandwich or whatever.
Nice.
And so, it's just a lot of things where I'm just I didn't make the best healthy choice possible that could have been possibly available to me, but at the same time, I tried not to overindulge myself.
Yeah, I mentioned that for the listeners that I went to Philly this weekend for the Miami Temple game, and even though the guy, my buddy that I went with, we split Pat's and a Gino's Philly cheesesteak before the game, so we each had a full Philly cheesesteak. We then asked a local where's an actual good place to go, because those two are pretty overrated. And we were told this place, Woodrow's, and it was amazing. So we had a Philly cheesesteak after the game. So that was 2 Philly cheesesteaks. But from Pat's and Gino's to the stadium was a 2-mile walk. And from the stadium to Woodrow's was a 3-mile walk. So we did do that. But it was a lot of beers all day. And I wasn't planning on having breakfast, but when we got to the train station before we left, my buddy was like, I was gonna go get Chick-fil-A for breakfast, and so I was standing in line with him, and I was like, well, I'm not going to get a spicy biscuit with egg and cheese. So I did that.
It's tough in those situations where it's something you want, yeah. Where it's to watch somebody else get it and be like, I'm just going to sit here and live vicariously through you. That doesn't work.
Well, it's funny because he actually did that. Those things go ahead. He actually did that with me because he ordered first and just ordered the spicy deluxe biscuit, which is if you've never been to Chick-fil-A, that is simply just a spicy piece of chicken in between a biscuit. And I was like, it's breakfast time. So I was like, can you add an egg and a cheese to that? Which only adds a total $1.40. But oh my God, why is that not a regular menu item? So Chick-fil-A has, and this is not to, this is a rant against what they're selling, not their values. So I don't understand how they can have a bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit on the breakfast menu. They have a sausage, egg, and cheese biscuit on the breakfast menu, and they have pieces of chicken on biscuits. But I had to make my own chicken, egg, and cheese. You're effing Chick-fil-A. What's going on? Why did I have to do this for you?
Yeah.
And different.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, but I would say I think days like that, I think days like that are important, right? Is what I was going to say. The Saturday you had, the Sunday I had, I think those kind of days are important to when you're trying to lose weight in a sustainable way.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding that those days are going to exist and not letting a bad Saturday turn into a bad Sunday, into a bad Monday and derail you, but having that mindset of hey, I ate what I ate today, and tomorrow's a new day, and it's one day out of 365 days. And again, overestimating, what we can accomplish in a week, underestimating what we can accomplish in a year. It's if you overeat by 4,000 calories, let's just say, in one day, that's going to set you back 1 pound. Not counting any caloric deficit you have for the rest of the week. That is not that big in the grand scheme of things, because if you spend the rest of the month trying to lose a pound a week, you'd be down 3 pounds or something, So it's really, not letting those, but it's also trying to limit how many times, maybe making those days into meals, those meals into parts of meals, satisfying cravings versus overindulging. kind of thing, has been the biggest hurdle that I feel like I've tried to jump. Where it's just like, okay, yeah, I got some fries with my Wendy's chicken sandwich. I didn't eat all of them. It helped that I was driving, so I couldn't like eat them that quickly. But I just ended up not finishing them because I got to a point where I was like, these fries aren't going to add anything to my life that I want right now. Like I'm set. Like I don't need to finish them. So that was a very nice place to find myself.
Nice.
And it probably didn't make a huge difference in my calorie count, but it made a big difference in my mental health of like getting to
Yeah,
that
no, that's
spot of
great.
like not feeling like I had to finish the fries just because I bought the fries. I'm like, they're not doing anything for me at this point.
Speaking of like just mental health and like stopping. So I mentioned that I'm not the best at intuitive eating, but what I should say is that when I'm sharing food with somebody else, I'm extremely cognizant to not go over what I deem as like my portion.
Yeah.
So if only I could just share all my meals, then I think I'd lose a lot of weight because I believe in fairness above all. So
Yeah.
maybe I need
I
a
mean,
meal partner. I should ask my wife if she's interested in being my meal partner.
she's not. I can tell you.
She's not. She's not at all.
No,
We don't like
she's
the
not.
same foods.
Nope. It's okay. My wife is actually a pretty good meal partner, and so that actually does help me a lot when we're going out to eat. Is we can sort of like split things up and do that. But it's not. I don't know. For me, it's not a cure all. Like there's a lot of just it's a process. The intuitive eating is a process, and intuitive eating itself is not actually meant to be sort of a means to weight loss. It's meant to be a healing your relationship with food so that you're not, doing, drastic cutting and then gaining back weight and like having negative associations with certain types of foods. It's being able to like, I'll give another example. Like my wife had the kids one afternoon this week, and I had like a phone call meeting, and she comes back and she got crumble cookies. Have you heard of these things?
Say it again.
They're like crumble cookies. They're like
Oh, I feel
these
like
like
I've heard of
soup.
those.
They're very popular, but they're like
Oh, Crumble's the name of like a place.
yeah, a brand. Yeah, like
Okay.
it's
Oh
like a
yeah,
store. They have their own
yeah.
locations, all that kind of stuff. And so she got
I've heard
these
of them.
things, and they were just they're good. They're
As good as
good.
advertised. Hmm.
Maybe I don't know, but they were good. They were tasty. They were tasty cookies, and she got like half a dozen of these things. And I actually took out a knife and I cut off little slivers of each of the like 6 cookies she got, put them on my plate, closed the box, and then went and tasted the cookies. And I was like, oh yeah, so I could do my taste test. I enjoyed the cookies. I had a good time. I probably had a total of half a cookie worth of cookie because they're big cookies. But I got my taste and I was like, okay, now I'm satisfied and the box is closed. And I had that in the kitchen, not where I was eating. So I wasn't just sitting there and like downing a whole cookie or cookie and a half or something like that and then feeling like I didn't need that, And so
I
that's the
can
kind of
reach
like
the
where
box.
intuitive eating
Yeah.
is less like, was half a crumble cookie going to be good for my calorie count? No. But was half a cookie going to be better? Yeah. Was it going to be better for my mental health? Yeah. Was it going to be better for my relationship with food? Yeah. So, yeah, that was another sort of win in that department.
Nice.
Anyway,
Nice.
we've been going a little while now, so I
Yeah.
figure anything else you want to add about dieting, weight loss, extracurriculars, Taylor
No.
Swift, Travis Kelsey.
No. I guess just like Kelsey, I'm a shoot my shot, Taylor, and you belong with me. This could be our love story. I don't have any bad blood with you, and we both know all too well that you'll never, ever, ever get back together. I don't think that last one was right, but I tried.
You tried.
I
And
tried.
that's really the point about working on the dad pod here is trying.
Yes, trying.
All right,
Do our
guys,
best.
you want to take us out?
Yeah. Thanks so much for working on the dad pod with us, and we hope you come back next time. Have a great night, everybody.
See you guys. Bye. Thanks for working on the Dad Pod with us. Any resources that we mentioned during the show will be in the show notes. If you have questions, thoughts, or just want to talk with us, the best place is in the comments on YouTube. We're on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Threads at Working on the Dad Pod, and on Twitter at Working on Dad Pod. Following and subscribing is always appreciated. Please rate and review us. That helps get the show to new people. And if you know a dad who would enjoy our show, sharing it with them is a huge help to them and us. Have a great week.